So, welcome back to What's on My Walls. We'll call this part 2. I hope you caught part 1. But really, when you collect like this, it's all about sharing what you've found. And so this is an easier way, at least for you. Back to the dining room for one last pass, and we'll get over in the corner to this beautiful piece of social realism. It's Scratchboard by Virginia Pitman, Workers in the Jungle. Virginia was born Virginia Stouter in 1913 in Denver, which in those days had only 25,000 people in it. By her early 20s, she was being shown on the walls along with others in group shows at the Denver Art Museum. She married Raymond Pitman, who was a brilliant nuclear engineer and immediately plugged into the Manhattan Project, which was the atomic bomb, and they lived in Washington State while he did that and, frankly, long after. While he worked at the Hanford reactor, she was a nearby school teacher. And really, because of the successful marriage and the teaching, it really muted her artistic career. There's a great story online about one of her paintings from the WPA years in the 1930s, the Depression, which was on its way to a dumpster in Wyoming. And a young man, an art student, said, "Wait a minute, I think this is important." He put it in his attic for 30 years, pulled it out in the early 2000s, and it was found to be exactly what he thought it was. It was restored in Washington, D.C. and sent back to Wyoming, where it hangs in a Cheyenne museum today. Virginia Pitman, Workers in the Jungle. Moving across the window here to the other corner, this is a drawing by Henri Gaudier-Brzeska, and was a moment of incredible excitement for me. Because way back in 1974, in one of those movie art houses, I had seen his biopic, 1972's Savage Messiah, the story of Henri Gaudier-Brzeska. It was such an exciting film about the whole process of creation through his life story. It was a life changer for me, and I never imagined I'd actually catch up with a work of his. But here it is, man in a robe, Henri Gaudier-Brzeska. He had a lot of friends in London, and his career lasted only 4 years, 1910 to 1914, because when World War I broke out, he signed up and was killed, unfortunately, a year later. Ezra Pound was a big friend of his, and after his passing, Ezra wrote a book, a memoir, talking essentially about what might have been, the art that would never be. In fact, I became such a fan in 1989 when I was on my way to Spain, had a stopover in London. I took the train one afternoon out to Cambridge, and there's a cute little museum there called Kettle's Yard, stuffed with Gaudier-Brzeska's work. It was a real thrill. Opposite Gaudier-Brzeska is a work by a guy I'd never heard of before, Lawton Parker. This is The Cobbler. And the minute I spotted this in an auction, I thought, the head of this alone is Rembrandt-esque. I was just stunned by the quality. And it turned out there was a reason why. In the late 1800s, early 1900s in America, this guy was an artistic star. Subsequent years have not borne out his stardom, so he's barely remembered today. He was not only a terrific artist. In 1913, he won first prize at the Paris Salon. This was it. He was an enormously capable administrator. In his time, he ran 2 prestigious art schools. He was also a member of the American Luminists, who in the early 1900s were just gaga about Monet and had to be near him. So they all moved to Giverny, France, to be just down the street from Monet, who wanted no part of these guys. But they stayed there for several years, and they painted, turning out basically American Impressionism. Parker managed to make so much money with his art, his administration, and prowess in the stock market that he was able to buy a chateau in deep suburban Paris. And then World War II came along and the Nazis trashed the place. He fled to Paris and had to hide out there for 2 years before he finally escaped. He eventually made it back to America, to Pasadena, in fact. And I thought it interesting that this piece surfaced in nearby Burbank. Lawton S. Parker, The Cobbler. If you're game for a little more of this, we'll do part 3 coming soon. Thanks for stopping by.